Welcome to this video. In this video, we are going to discuss about tension members. We are going to find the tensile strength of a given member and also to design a tension member for the given amount of load. So let me start with the introduction in this video. So you know what is a tension member. See, let me take this. There is a body here and this is the axis and this is the force acting on this member P, and this P is tensile in nature, and this member is being subjected to tension along the axis, and this member is called as tension member. So how can you define a tension member? So tension member is a member in which axial forces acts so as to elongate or stretch the member, right? Isn't it? This P is nothing but an axial force since it is acting along the axis of the member. And what is the nature of this force? The force is actually trying to stretch or elongate this body or this member, isn't it, right? So it is a member in which axial forces such as P acting on it so as to elongate or stretch a member. Of course, in case of compression members, you know that this is a member and compressional forces are going to act on this member axially, and such a member is called as compression member. And in this unit we are going to limit in this video we are going to limit ourselves to tension members. So you can give a general example of a tension member. We have many bodies that we see every day which are subjected to tension, or you can call them as tension members. And let me give you a general example, that is a rope. A rope. See, a rope is nothing but a tension member when it is subjected to tension, right? For example, there is a well here and someone is trying to take the water out of this well. So you know that you put a small bucket to that chadantamu, you put that and you will dip that bucket and into the well, and you will use the rope to pull it out, right, with full of water. And when it is happening, there is the weight of the water is acting downward, right, and you are pulling it outward, upward. So there is a tension acting on this rope, isn't it, right? uh, Another example can be this. For example, if you are going for a trekking on a mountain, trekking a mountain, you are going to fit the rope to the rock so that in case you fall down or you tend to fall down, the rope is going to hold you down, right? Your weight, your weight is going to act downward, and the since rope is fixed to this surface, there is a tension developed in this rope, and this rope is a tension member. But coming to civil engineering field, we have certain members which we can call them as tension members. We are going to look into that. And there is a major difference between the tension member and the compression member. Okay, the major difference is the position or the state of member before it is going to fail, before failing. See, if it is a tension member, something like a rope or something like a beam or something which is subjected to tension, and when the tension is acting on this member, a rupture is going to take place, breaking is going to take place at the weakest section, and it is going to be divided into two halves, right? That is what you see in your tensile test in the steel. And what happens in case of compression member? So if you apply compressive force on this member, on this compression member, if the compression member is very large, what happens is it is going to buckle. Okay, it is going to bend laterally. Okay, but if the member is small, what happens is it is going to get crushed. Something like the compressor test on concrete cubes. So you put the concrete cube in the compression testing machine. Since the cube is of smaller length, when you apply compressive force, it is going to fail by compression. When the member is very large, okay, slender member, it is going to buckle. It is not going to fail by buckling. It is going to fail, it is not going to fail by crushing. When the member is large, it is going to fail by buckling. Okay, so let me give you some examples of tension members that we see. See, this is a single story building and it has a roof truss, something like an industrial building. See, these are called as tie members. Of course, this is the bigger picture. I hope you can see. So, this is the tie beam or bottom chord. And this is a member in a roof truss that is subjected to tensile forces. And therefore, you can call this member as a tension member. And in some cases, we have bracings also. As you can see in this image, we have bracings to support the columns, to support the sides. These bracings can also be seen in multi-storied buildings also. So these bracings are helpful to the structure in case it is subjected to wind loads or earthquake loads. When the lateral forces are acting on the building, see, these are the lateral forces because of wind or earthquake. And because of this earthquake or wind, this structure is going to sway either to the left or to the right based on the direction of the wind force. And these bracings will give the stability to the structure. It gives strength to the structure. And you can see in this right hand image how these bracings are going to look. So when the when the structure is subjected to these lateral forces or wind forces, these bracings are going to experience compression and tensile forces also based on the location of this bracing and the direction of force. And as we are seeing here, let me go through the different parts of the roof truss. See, so these are nothing but rafters. These inclined members are nothing but top chord or rafter. And along this rafter, horizontally, there are members you can see in this red color dots. These are the horizontal members. You are able to see cross section of it here. These are called purlins. And the topmost portion is called apex or peak. And these are web runners. And this bottom tension member is tie beam or bottom chord. And this is a splice plate. See, the purpose of this splice plate is simple. From this support, this tie beam has to extend. But sometimes the members available with us can be smaller in size. In such a case, what we need to do is, in order to construct a tie beam, in order to fix a tie beam, you must be joining two tie beams to form a single member. So this is a joint. So in order to join two members, this is one and this is two. In order to join these two, we use this splice plate. And we are also going to design this splice plate also in this part of unit. Other example is cable stayed bridge. This is a bridge and this is the road deck, and this road or deck is being supported by the cables. These cables hold this support and this road deck. So there is a tension in these cables, and you can see on this right hand side, this is the image that is going to look. See, these are the cables, and these cables are going to hold this deck, and they are going to be tension. And you can see here the next example is a bridge truss, and these bridge truss, these are the tie members which generally experience compressional forces and tensile forces depending upon the location of loading on this bridge. For example, if you can see here in this image 1, this is a bridge joining this point 1 and point 2. So when a vehicle is going onto the beam, onto this bridge, the vehicle load is going to act on this truss, and immediately either compression or tension is going to develop in the members. In the red marked members, tension is going to develop, and on blue, compressional force is developed. They are compressional members. These are compressional members, whereas these are tension members. And this is another type of truss, and you can see how a tension or a compression is being developed in the members. And this is the actual image of a bridge truss which is joining this and this portion, and these are the ties. And the next example is suspension bridge. This suspension bridge is a bit different compared to the cable strayed bridge. A main cable is going to run from the first support to second support, and there are other cables to which this complete deck is suspended. As you can see, this is the deck, and these are the deck suspenders which holds this deck. Finally, the weight of this deck is going to is going to be taken by these supports through these cables, and these cables are going to be in tension. And other example is sag rods. These sag rods are used in roof trusses. Of course, you can see in this figure, you can see this is nothing but purlin. I told you this, horizontal members, and this is nothing but rafter. And these members or the rods that are joining purlins are nothing but sag rods. And these sag rods are going to experience tension. And let me give you the different members in an industrial structure. See, these horizontal members, as I told you, are nothing but purlins. Okay. And these are nothing but rafters. These are nothing but rafters. And we have end wall git. Git are nothing but the horizontal members which support the claddings. See, after finishing this structure, the walls has to be constructed, right? Instead of concrete walls, what we do in an industrial building is we use steel sheets, right? Metal sheets to cover this open space, right? So when you are trying to cover this open space, you need to bolt that metal surface, vertical metal surface to something, to the structure, right? So these are the horizontal members to which that sheet is going to be bolted. And these horizontal members are nothing but git. We are calling this as end wall git because this is the end wall here, right? And here is the bracings. As you can see, these are the bracings and these are going to experience tensile forces or compressive forces depending upon the direction of force. And these are the end wall columns, and this is Ave strut, and this is the mainframe column. This is the mainframe column, this and this, and this is the side wall gut. Guts are same. This is the end wall and this is side wall. Okay, these are the few important uh, parts, and we are going to design this purlin in this chapter, or any member that is subjected to tension forces.